Hi y'all, Kraken Latte here. It's that time again where I bring you my tips, facts, or experience that you may or may not find helpful. Season 2 of Dragonflight is in full swing, and with it came some admittedly tasty transmog from the new raid, Aberrus, the Shadowed Crucible. If you're like me and retired from any form of group or competitive content, then these raid sets would normally be off limits for solo players like us, until the raids are soloable many years in the future. However, starting with the last patch of Shadowlands and still going on now, a new system called the Catalyst was introduced that allowed players to convert various types of gear from multiple sources into the current season raid tier sets, including non-tier pieces like boots or wrists to collect the whole set. This does actually include some of the open world gear as well, though options there are very limited. This means solo players like us can actually get at least some of the current raid transmog while still playing solo, and without needing to wait several years to see any of these beautiful pieces. Let's dig right into the steps on how I have been collecting both the LFR and normal sets from Aberrus for all 13 classes, solo. To get started, in case it's your first time or you're on a fresh alt, pick up the Catalyst quest from Therazol and the Fyrakk quest from Kalecgos in the central area of Feltraken. Also grab the weekly Aiding the Accord quest from Therazol because the reputation from all of this will count toward that as well, and when you complete it, you will receive some of the currency we will need to use later. As a quick note before we continue, I prefer doing all of this on a level 70 character, but I want to point out that you can do some of this as early as level 60, because you can pick up the Fyrakk quest. The assault mobs will somewhat scale down, and you can get some of the loot. However, the gear we'll be getting can't be used until level 70, and the Catalyst is also level 70 only as well. But I thought I'd mention it in case you'd like to get a head start. If you'd like a 60 to 70 leveling guide, I do have one that I made linked in the description for you below. Go to wherever the Fyrakk quest takes you, which seems to be in either Azure Span or Anaran Plains, as that is where the current Fyrakk assault will be. You can also see it on the map marked by a big dragon head icon when you zoom out of the zone map. When you get there, turn that quest in and you'll get the next one called Suffusion Camp, telling you to loot the Crucible and the Mold. We will want to do this because this is what will unlock the World Quest version of this first quest the following week. That World Quest can sometimes reward gear, which is what we want. Also pick up the other quests in the area. These are usually really easy to do and don't take too much time, so that's pretty great. You will find that they sometimes reward gear, but that gear is not actually the kind we want because it's the wrong type. I will explain that in a later step. The reason we want to do these quests is for some quick and easy flightstones and crests, which are the currencies required for the raid transmog we want. More on that as well when we get to that step later. And it's also important to keep in mind as we continue that everything about this assault area is weekly in terms of quests and major loot. They reset with every weekly reset and will also change location to either the Azure Span or the Anaran Plains. There's currently the only 2 locations though, so you'll learn where they are as they rotate each week. Apparently Fyrakk only has beef with the green and blue dragons. Now it's time to do all the quests you just picked up. The normal weekly ones are pretty quick and easy. However, for the first time quest called Suffusion Camp, you will notice you cannot loot the Mold or Crucible because you do not have enough wards of Igra and Fyrakk. Hopefully you get some while doing the other quests, but it's not very straightforward on how to get these from the quest description, so here's what's up. First, let's try to farm for the wards of Igra. Yes, there's a bit of mob farming involved, and everything here will hit like a freight train unless you're a tank, so be careful. The Jaradin, the big fiery humanoids running around, have the highest chance to drop the wards of Igra, so those are who we'll focus on, but the rares can spawn as well, and they also drop both kinds of wards. If you see a rare, beeline for it, since these give good chances at both wards. Once you have at least 5 wards of Ygra, you can loot the Crucible. These are scattered about in multiple locations on your map from the quest. When you do, you'll be rewarded with a few wards of Fyrakk, which is why we did Ygra first. Looting the Crucible will also summon some rares, so kill those as well for more chances at wards. These can stack higher than 5, and you can save them for the following weeks too, which is really nice that they don't have a timer or a 5-stack limit. And if you still didn't get all 5 of your wards of Fyrakk from farming or the Crucible, I've noticed the rares and Proto-Drake seem to have a higher chance at dropping those. Farming these wards is the worst part of this assault, in my opinion, as it's going to take way too long, especially if there's not a lot of people around. You'll have to be really careful here. Once you have farmed at least 5 wards of Fyrakk and go to loot the mold, you'll summon the Forgemaster, who you also need to kill for the quest. If this NPC is already active and being killed before you summon him yourself, help kill it and loot it, because this NPC is very important both now and later, so remember this guy. The reason he's so important is because he drops ever-burning keys, which you need 3 of to loot a weekly chest here that will contain one of the pieces of gear we need, and more on that in a later step. So, kill him if he's up, loot him, then loot the mold and kill him again. Whichever order you do it in, make sure to kill him twice. It helps out others if you wait to summon him as well, because you need to loot the mold to summon him, and you need him for keys. And farming for wards of Fyrakk, as you now know, is a pain in the butt. So you'll likely see this NPC being farmed with people taking turns summoning him. And don't worry, everyone can tag him. Now, turn in all the quests, as you should be done with those. You may get some gear from these quests, and you can put them on if they'll help you, but we actually cannot use these for the catalyst. So if you don't need them right away because your current gear is better, you may want to vendor or disenchant them, but don't do that just yet. We'll cover what gear we want in a later step. Save all the gear you get for now, just so no accidents happen. We just wanted these quests for the easy flightstones and crests. If you were here at the right time or long enough, you may have seen a progress bar on your screen somewhere that shows Fyrakk's Fury. This bar seems to show up around every 45 minutes to an hour, so certainly wait for it to pop up because we need the boss that spawns. When this gets to 100%, it will announce Fyrakk is coming, and that's exactly what he's doing. When he gets here, we don't actually fight him, but a disciple of his will fight in his stead. That's the boss I just mentioned. We want to kill this dragon because it drops gear that we may be able to use for the Catalyst transmog. We can actually get all pieces of gear, including necks, rings, trinkets, and weapons from any of these activities. Of course, we cannot use those in the Catalyst, but hey, if they help out your Addon level, then I suppose that's a win, though I certainly get disgruntled when I get one just because I only want the transmog. Looting that Disciple Dragon will also have given you a 3rd key, which is why we did not bother killing the Forgemaster a 3rd time, which you could also do instead. So head over to the chest, which you likely saw during your questing here, and loot it. It's in the same place every time, so you'll learn where it is as you do the assaults. This will hopefully give us our 2nd useful piece of gear, assuming you got armor, the first being from the Disciple. This chest, just like the Disciple and the quests, is weekly, resetting with the normal weekly reset. Flightstones and crests are the currency we're going to be using to upgrade our gear, but do not use them until I tell you to. That way we can get both LFR and normal tier transmog with a single piece of gear, use only 1 catalyst charge, and not need to double farm currency. Hopefully, in your normal gameplay and now including the Fyrakk assault, you will have a decent amount of flightstones and crests. Personally, I found this to be the case for me. But if you do not, some easy ways to get them are from world quests and the Aiding the Accord weekly, which is why I had you pick that up when we started. You can also do the Zeralit Caverns campaign if you haven't done that yet, as that seems to reward quite a few flightstones and some crests too. Check your currency before you do, however, as it's important to note that you can only hold up to 2,000 flightstones for some reason. which I think is silly because it's very easy to overfarm and lose out on them since we seem to get rewarded so many. So keep an eye on that, and I will show you how to spend them here soon. Now, using the catalyst is the next step after this one. So hopefully you've gotten at least one piece of gear that we can use so that you can see how this works firsthand, which means it's time to look at all that gear you got in your bags. First and foremost, the suffused veteran type gear that is rank 4 of 8 and lower is the exact gear we will be using here. This is the gear that you will be getting from the weekly Disciple Dragon, the weekly Fyrakk chest, and the Suffusion Camp World Quest if it offers armor once that unlocks for you the following week. There is a very small chance you can be rewarded with champion level gear, which is the next grade up from the Assault. However, we are not using that one because it will not give us the LFR transmog, only the normal tier stuff. And if you want to upgrade champion from rank 4 to 5, it requires crests from raids or Mythic Plus, which is not solo content. So if you want that for its item level, save it, otherwise I just vendor it. A note on the rank, sometimes you are lucky and it can drop at 2 of 8, 3 of 8, or 4 of 8 instead of 1 of 8. That's pretty neat because that's less currency you have to spend. What we don't want is 5 of 8, which is why we don't want to upgrade it yet. I've not seen it drop at that rank yet, but in case it does, we don't want it. And you'll see why in a minute, one step at a time. Now, with gear and currency in hand, it's time to go turn in that catalyst quest we picked up at the start so that you know where it is and then we can get going on that. The catalyst here will grant you 1 charge per week per character that you can use on this gear we just got. There is no quest or currency you need to get this charge, it's just automatically rewarded each reset, and 1 will go to each of your alts as well, so that's pretty nice. Note that you can only hold up to 8 charges though, so try not to wait longer than 8 weeks to use them, or you'll be capped until you do so. Anyway, pop that suffused veteran piece of gear in and turn it into LFR tier. Yes, look at that tasty mog. That's what I'm after anyways. And of course, if you have more suffused veteran gear and more charges, use those now too. Now, take that LFR tier piece down to the upgrade NPC. I like to use the one in Veldraken at the PvP room where the PvP vendors and training dummies are. It's not far from the main area with the auction house and bank in the city. Then pop that new LFR piece into the upgrade slot and upgrade it to at least 5 of 8. And watch the magic happen. Bam! Now it's a normal piece of tier gear. Hot, right? We are able to save on catalyst charges, flight stones, crests, and ultimately our time by doing it this way. Plus, if you're only in it for the mog like me, you only need to go up to 5 of 8, not higher. Nice! And guess what? Now you know how to get the right gear and what the proper order for catalyst use and upgrading is. But I'm sure you noticed, you aren't going to get the full set in 1 week. This will take multiple weeks depending on how lucky you are, in addition to waiting for all the catalyst charges. Ah, good old RNG and time gating. So the step here is to continue to do the Fyrakk's assaults for the suffused veteran gear, flight stones, and crests, use the catalyst charges on your suffused veteran gear, and then upgrade it to 5 of 8 until you have all 9 armor pieces to complete the sets. You could even do all 13 classes like me and complete all 13 Aberrus class sets for both LFR and normal. Awesome, right? Did you know I stream on Twitch now? I do everything from transmog to leveling to gold making, and I'm live 5 days a week to chat with, so come hang out. And there we have it. If you think I've missed information or you want to request I do a specific guide, let me know in the comments below. Even if I don't answer you, I just might add your idea to my list. As always, thank you so much for watching, and remember, it's never too latte.